Wake up and smell the coffee, Mr. LaRusso.
Extreme situations require extreme measures.
Yo guys, about the Cobra Kai Karate, go back to a brand new video. And guys, today we're going to be talking about Johnny Lawrence's and his arc in Cobra Kai Season 6. I know Season 6 is not completed yet, but I've been very disappointed with his arc, and I really don't think Part 3 is really going to conclude anything from what they've already started. Now I know, another negative Cobra Kai video, I got it. But guys, trust me, I actually recorded a positive Cobra Kai video. I was ranking all 10 episodes, and my audio wasn't working. A whole 30-minute video. I was so mad. I almost broke my PS5. It's not good. But I got a new microphone, so it should be working. And yeah, we're going to be talking about Johnny Lawrence's arc in Season 6. Obviously, just my opinion. If you guys disagree with me, let me know in the comments down below. But we're going to go theme by theme of his arc in Season 6 and how I completely disagreed with it and how this season completely ruined Johnny, who is my favorite character in the show. So without further ado, let's get right into it. So Season 6 kind of starts off of Johnny trying to detach himself away from Daniel. He really does not seem like he wants to be his friend or he wants to really do anything. He wants to train separately, and there's a sense of like these snide insults that we get throughout the first episode.
What does Mr. LaRusso think of all this? And you guys are supposed to be going like 50-50, right?
Russo wants to open up a couple more dojos. He can be my guest. At the end of the day, people are going to have to decide if they want to learn karate from a car salesman or an actual sensei.
We spent not one, not two, not three, not even 4 seasons to get these guys where they are. In Season 5, they teamed up at the end of the season, and that was it. That was marking what was supposed to be an arc, a conclusion to a longer storyline. That's good writing, because obviously Johnny and Daniel are not going to get along right away. It took time. In Season 4, they tried to, and it took time. In Season 5, they get along, they conclude, and I'm not saying that they agree on everything, but in Season 6, we get multiple scenes of him just kind of not seem like he wants to be his friend at all. But yeah, this season does not feel like a friendship at all, which is not what we had in Season 5. In Season 5, there was no real arguments, just one moment where Daniel was in a rough place and insulted Johnny.
Tournament loss, all it took to turn you into a pussy.
And what did Johnny do then? He did not fight in his face, he didn't freak out, he didn't try to fight him or punch him in the face. What he did was he calmed himself down and helped him. Being a good friend and a mature person he was growing to be. That was the person he was supposed to be, that his arc was going down from 1 to 5.
What are you doing? You show up out of the blue, you're raving like a lunatic, you reek of booze, and now you're gonna fight me? What's going on with you, man?
But in Season 6, we see very little of that. Instead, Daniel asked Johnny to run something by him before making a decision at his own place that Daniel owns. And Johnny's response is an immature, complete step back from previous growth.
Maybe after you run it by me first.
Since when do I run shit by you?
Since it might burn down the house.
It just really is just like, I don't get it, but that's just the beginning of it in episode 1, and it gets worse. And then he completely says he'll full on fight Chosen, a guy he fought side by side with, a guy who he fought to the death with. He chooses to fight him over the karate dojo name, something that really did not seem that important in Season 5 or really any of their interest. And in fact, they care more about this name and they're willing to fight over it, over their students. Like, I think in Season 6, we see more of them caring more about their student name than the stuff that Tori's going through, or the stuff their students are going through, or themselves. So that was just absolutely ridiculous, and it just gets even worse. And look, I agree Johnny cares about his name and his legacy, but this makes him seem like a bonehead. They're repeating the same mistake he made in Season 4 where he fought Daniel for what he wanted, not what was best for the students, where they're fighting each other over the who's going to take control of the students. And they realized in Season 4 that, hey, we're supposed to fight together, and they bowed to each other. That was a great moment. Now it feels like, okay, well, I'm willing to tarnish that for what I want, which is just completely ruin the whole arc they went through that should continue and strive. After they qualify for the Psychotai Kai, we see no tension about the name. It seemed neither cared much, as they shouldn't, but since there is no plot, and we spent a whole episode on Johnny getting his head out of his ass about a karate name, only for Stingray to give a speech in the woods that Johnny says it's chill, it's all chill now. That's basically what he says, we're Miyagi-Do, and then the episode ends. So the whole episode, he is struggling with this. Stingray gives him a speech. He goes there and says, no, we're Miyagi-Do, and it's all fun and games. That was his whole arc in episode 1. Alright, whatever. But this scene was very important because Johnny says, "We are Miyagi-Do. We fight together. Both styles is best for the students." He put his ego aside. Yes, it is a reinforcing growth arc, an arc he's already gone through. But that is fine. Not all arcs need to be permanent. And arcs can be fluid. And however, this was thrown away later in the season. But since it got repeated again and again in the season, it goes from a reinforcement arc to a flawed arc. A flawed arc is an arc that repetitively happens and it leads nowhere. That's not a flawed character. That's just someone who can never grow, and it's not a character that even deserves to have an arc. And that's what they did to Johnny Lawrence season 6. And I understand in real life, not every person has like a real story arc. Like some people will generally just have the same issues. They can never really grow. But here's the problem. If a movie character or a cinema character goes through the same arc repeatedly, and it keeps reverting and going back and forth, there never was an arc to begin with. Anyway, so episode 2 does an amazing job building Johnny's arc from episode 1. And this is the part I actually really like, where we see him struggling with money, family, and housing. He moves in with Daniel for a little bit looking for houses, and he has a great scene and talking with Chosen, talking about holding back his anger, an arc I was excited for. This worked in Johnny's favor, showing that he can have progress if he puts that aside. He starts to see that he can move stuff forward, he got a stable job, and he's secure, and if he keeps doing this and he keeps, working in a job, he could secure a house for his family. And this right here was generally just a perfect setup for growth. And we see it pay off immediately. Johnny goes to the job, is honest with Daniel about what he needs. He's not, doing anything, and he takes responsibility. And I love this. But the problem with this, my love for it is what makes me hate it even more, because it's completely forgotten and just 2 episodes later and completely tarnished. So let's get to episode 3. This one is just pure filler. It's running around, walking, pulling stuff from the past, getting bit by snakes in a cave and a sleepover. It's just characters being characters, nothing to move the story or arc. So we're going to just skip this episode to go to episode 4. Alright, so episode 4, we suddenly see a Johnny-Devin relationship arc. This came out of nowhere. They didn't really have any meaningful scenes together before, but now it's like they're been bonding off screen, and Johnny is oddly biased toward her. Not batting an eye at his own son or anyone else in the whole Sekai Taikai. He even literally goes on to fight Mike to defend his bias. And this seems just super unnatural, making Johnny and Daniel look like bad senseis that they're so biased. Like Daniel too. I know this is a Johnny video, but Daniel's saying like, "Oh, I would pick Anthony over Tori." Like, what in the world? And when you're so biased, it makes him look like just bad senseis. So I don't like that they did that either. The arc from episode 1 and 2 takes a complete pause for 2 episodes. Johnny's arc is used for jokes and filler. We see no scenes of him trying to hold back his anger or work harder. We barely see him with Carmen, the heart and motivation of his arc. It's really just, that arc is just kind of abandoned for the new 2 episodes. If anything, it's kind of just not even falling, because him fighting Mike Barnes literally shows him, acting on his anger, which was an arc he was trying to hold back on. So that doesn't make a lot of sense. But now let's get to episode 5. Now, this one really is when it all fell down for me, at least for Johnny. So first off, Johnny completely ignores Daniel, teaching the students alone and brushing it off as he'll do it another day. Okay, so fine, Johnny might want to do things his way sometimes, but this contradicts his agreement that we are Miyagi-Do now, that training together makes the students better. If this was something that Johnny actually believed and actually had an emotional conclusion to, this would be something that he would have happen. But he just says, we'll do it another day. But you know what? Johnny's not perfect. I can let that one slide. But when it gets really bad is when Johnny criticized Daniel for taking the student somewhere else without telling him. But how can Johnny be mad? He trained them alone without teaching literally anything Miyagi-Do. This makes Johnny a big hypocrite, undermining his arc from episode 1 of coming to the conclusion of Miyagi-Do, and then it gets even worse. After he finds out about this, he's driving a customer for his job, but he sees Daniel in a car, impulsively drives down there. Now remember, Johnny needs his job for his pregnant wife and his family, yet he throws it away for an argument with Daniel. This isn't eating the Johnny we know and love.
David, all right? Some partnership. It's my test drive. Don't change the subject.
Johnny, that is beyond unprofessional.
I got a better idea. How about you finish the test drive and I'll train the kids?
Yes, Johnny's a hothead, but he never would throw or act on his anger to put his family in jeopardy. That's what he cared about the most, his family and the things he loves. And then after that whole argument, he goes there and stands on the desk and quits over a petty argument in the woods.
Attention, everyone! Can I have your attention, please? I'm leaving LaRusso Auto to start my own dealership. So if you're like me and you're tired of the way Daniel runs shit around here, you walk away right now, no questions asked. Who's with me?
And this right here was an embarrassing moment, not for Johnny, but to show. This is not the Johnny we know in season 5. Here he's made to look like a joke, a reckless fool throwing away his progress for nothing. This Johnny right here is snooping out lower than he was in season 1. And now we're in the 6th final season. How is this an arc that's even close to compelling? Doing this and closing his job removes the forward progress for his jobs and now puts his family in jeopardy of getting that house. And then when Amanda tells Johnny that Daniel is dealing with something emotional with Mr. Miyagi, the man who saved Daniel's life, you would think Johnny would be a little more understanding for the moment. And he is, and they make up briefly, but it does not last at all. When Tori reveals her mom dies, instead of comforting her or trying to cool his way down, Johnny uses it as an excuse to insult Daniel to feel his own fulfillment of his anger and biasness towards him.
Want me to beat your daughter? No. Because when push comes to shove, you're gonna choose her over me.
No, it's not that, Tori.
Hey, we're not taking sides.
You sure about that?
Johnny.
Like, really? This is the Johnny we know? Not even close. Tori almost knocked Sam out and could have seriously hurt her, but Johnny downplays it to just win an argument. He even congratulates Daniel on, oh, congrats on losing your best female student.
Good work, LaRusso. You just lost one of our best fighters.
Why the hell didn't you back me up?
Because she wanted to fight!
Our mother just died. What?
And knowing the way more bigger stakes. Johnny in season 6 does really a disservice to what he was and his seasons and the meaningful growth. His character seems to backslide, revealing old conflicts instead of progressing. His partnership with Daniel is a highlight from the past season and undermining it by petty arguments that seemed forced, repetitive, and just, kind of unnecessary, and really just manufactured drama just to keep the show going. And Johnny's story as a family man is one of the most compelling arcs that is just kind of sidelined for filler, and his reckless decisions, such as jeopardizing his family for a petty spat, contradict his established motivations. Moments like these make him appear less like a flawed hero and more like a man stuck in the same place, learning the same lesson over and over again. And that's not who Johnny is, and it's not who he's supposed to be. This season sacrifices character depth for manufactured drama, turning Johnny into a character that really is just all over the place. If this show wants to preserve its magic, it needs to honor the growth that's already achieved instead of tearing it down for the sake of easy conflict. So that's part 1, and I wrote this right after part 1. So when I wrote this a while back, I didn't even write part 2. But now after watching part 2, it gets not even worse, it gets way, way worse. So let's kick it off with episode 6. So it starts out with Johnny and Daniel arguing what else is new, and this is only like the biggest moment for the student's life, and they're more interested to argue about themselves, and their disagreements is just kind of pathetic, and that's kind of the whole episode for him. There's not really any arcs. There's dialogue, but there's nothing to add to like what his character is overall. We see him arguing with Daniel, we see him arguing with Kreese, him kind of being there for like humor, and that's it. Because the problem with Johnny is he doesn't really have an arc. His arc kind of just moves and maneuvers with the story. If the story needs to be action, he will start a fight, he'll be angry. If the story needs to be emotional, he will be emotional, or he will hold back his anger. If the story needs to be drama, he'll make drama. But none of these stuff have to do with Johnny in his own arc. They're just things happening that are not supposed to be for him, but he's just there, just to be used for the very boring story, in my opinion. Because a story and an arc are not the same. They're supposed to collide together perfectly, and that's what makes a great movie. And that's what they did with Johnny before. The arc's supposed to add on to the story, not the story adding on to the arc. So let's head on over to episode 7. So episode 7, we get the Saigai Taikai fights, and right off the bat, Johnny and Daniel have another disagreement. This time it's about whether the students should calm down or we should push them further because they're losing. Now this would be an argument I would be okay with if it wasn't for what Johnny said. Because right after this feud, instead of having this feud responsibly, what he does is insult Mr. Miyagi by saying this.
You know what's bullshit? Letting them keep losing because you care more about honoring some dead guy's legacy than doing what'll actually help them win.
Absolutely disrespectful. He knows how much this person means to him, and we saw how close Johnny and Daniel got in season 5, and the fact he would snoop this low is ridiculous. And keep in mind, this is the guy who saved his life. The fact that this argument is willing to make him do this, and we never see him apologize, feel sympathetic for this at all, is not the Johnny I know. So later on in the episode, it's a lot more just like a Taikai fights, and then Daniel gets locked up in a dog cage, and he's fighting people to get out of it. In the meantime, Johnny is teaching students by himself, which he seems to be happy doing so. And doing this, he finds out that, hey, I can't do this on my own. He calls Daniel, and he apologizes and all this stuff. Now, this would be something I would like if it wasn't for the 30th time it's happened, and it kind of leads nowhere later on again. I mean, how many times are we going to see Daniel and Johnny make up, get mad, and then, oh, Johnny has to change his heart. He realizes he can't do it by his own. He calls him, the sad music plays, hey man, no. And they're like, oh yeah. It's literally happened 30 times. And this is literally the arc that went down in Season 4 that was solidified throughout Season 5. Season 4, they come together, they bow. Season 5, no real arguments, that's it. Season 6, they're digging back in the old tricks, which is just so boring after the 30th time, at least for me. And then the episode ends with him finding out that Carmen could be getting hurt or lose the baby, and he flies back to America. So now on to episode 8. So if anybody doesn't know, episode 8 is my least favorite episode in the season and the show, and one of my least favorite episodes in cinema history. But I'm not going to talk too much about the story, my problems with it. This is a lot more about Johnny's arc. And one of the positives of this episode, and not the only positive of this episode, was the Johnny and Miguel stuff on the plane. Now they start having disagreements, and some people could say this was forced or it came out of nowhere, but it kind of was building up under the rug. And the dialogue and the acting and the tension was done off very well. And it makes sense these people are not always going to always be on a straight A, always fond of each other. And we even see him in this episode hold back his anger for the sake of his family. And I love this. If this was episode 3 right after episode 1 and 2, I would have loved this. The issue with this is, okay, so he doesn't hold back his anger when he could, in a moment where he could keep his job just to save his house and his family. But now here, to get back to America, he will. Obviously, the stakes are higher. This is to get back to see his wife that he might see for the last time, God forbid. So the stakes are higher. But why does there need to be higher stakes for him to go down an arc that he was going down? Why does he need to pause for 4 episodes and then now continue and then now get vanished in the last 2? It just doesn't make any sense. And if you guys know about my reviews on this episode, I already told you about this whole Carmen thing was kind of unnecessary. I mean, they fly there, she's okay, she says go back, and they go back. It really didn't accomplish anything for the story, besides just trying to create some tension that something might happen. So I'm not going to say too much more about that, but they go back to Barcelona. And then it kind of ends with him walking up with Daniel and walking in Terry Silver butt-ass naked, and that's really the episode. Now on to episode 9. This is an episode that I actually really enjoy. It's definitely my favorite of the season, and I thought it was done very well. I would say it's a lot more done well with the acting, and there definitely is still problems with it. I meant to say the action and the acting, but still, it wasn't a bad episode at all. But obviously for this video, I'm staying strictly to Johnny and his arc and what he gone through. So although I do like this episode, I'm just going to be talking about Johnny and what he did this episode. Which really wasn't anything. He really didn't have any compelling arc. There's a lot more about the students and the action and all that stuff and Silver. Johnny himself really didn't do too much. Besides a couple scenes of Silver and when they walk into the students saying we are Miyagi-Do, all that stuff, that's really it. So although I do like this episode, for Johnny's arc, it took a complete pause for whatever the arc is. Now on to the last episode of season 6 so far, and maybe I'll make a follow-up to this video after part 3 comes out. Maybe I'll have a different take. I don't think I will, but let's just finish this up for the last time. So just as predicted, that one phone call, the sad music, only lasted really 2 episodes or 1, because after Cobra Kai gets back into the Second Kai, we see him fighting again on the beach.
1,000 times you don't do shit.
Yeah, you've caught me on a pretty shitty day.
Hey! What the hell are you two doing?
I'm sorry, you mean to tell me people can insult each other, punch each other, hate each other, but all it takes is Miguel with this little motivation and they're all back on track? Like, what kind of motivation to end that is that? But I already know in part 3 it's going to start again, so it doesn't really matter. And although I did frankly enjoy this episode, the rest of this has really nothing to do with Johnny. He fights Silver and he has a couple cool action, but outside of bickering of Daniel this episode, there really is nothing to add to his character. So in conclusion, his arc this season was really nothing. And if anyone has or thinks what this arc is or that is good, explain to me what it is. Give a little synopsis, because for me personally, this arc is not bad because it's like does a lot of terrible things. It's bad because there really is no arc. There really is no start to finish. I know, it's not complete. It doesn't matter if it's not complete, because the whole fundamental objective of how they're approaching this is already tarnished, and no matter what route they go down, it's going to be bad just because of how they started it. So how they end it is kind of relevant to my problems with it. And if you look at Johnny in season 1, his arc was a lot more of, the redemption or trying to, has conflict about whether Cobra Kai is right or wrong and no mercy and all this. Season 2 is more becoming a father figure, maturing, getting a girlfriend, all this stuff, trying to become a family man, and still following from season 1 arc of contemplating what's right and wrong. Season 3 is a lot more about the downfall and rise, the downfall of Johnny, where he's in the darkest place he's ever been in his life, and the rise to become a good person, to fight for what he believes in and fight for what he loves, with helping Miguel to walk again and all these heartfelt moments he had. And season 4, it's about putting past aside with Daniel, an arc where it's kind of back and forth, where yes, that had to happen. A lot of people don't like the back and forth, but it did have to happen at one point because these people do not like each other. It's not like after season 3 where it's playing, in the air, they're just going to be happy friends and never have an argument. So season 4 is a lot more of that, of trying to find the balance in and he goes on his own way where he's like, okay, I'm going to go down my own way, you're going your own way, and it messes up the students. Season 4, at the end finale, they bowed each other, we need each other, team up. It was a perfect moment to conclude that. And season 5 was really just kind of ending every less and loot of season 5 of him becoming a family man, of him and Johnny. Everything is kind of just settling all that up, and it's making him a complete character. Like him in season 5 was Johnny at his best. That was all the arcs amounting to who he is now and him fulfilling it. Season 5 wasn't really necessarily a huge arc. It was a lot more of just fulfilling what he already accomplished and thriving and growing in it. And that's why I think season 5 was, for almost every character, was the end of their arc. From Johnny, Daniel, Sam, Kreese, Silver, it was the end of their arc, even the story. That's why I probably make a separate video on why season 5 should be the last season. That's why season 6, now that you're dragging out a character where his arc is already over, now you're just going back on old arcs, and now season 6, you try to give that a say to it, it's just a reckless, rambling guy who can't get his head out of his ass. That's really what it is. That's not Johnny, and it's just not right. So that's why I think Johnny's arc was terrible in season 6 and why they destroyed one of the best characters in the show and in cinema. So this is obviously just my opinion, guys. Let me know anything about in the comments down below. Obviously, I'll make a follow-up to this probably after part 3. I'll have to see, but it depends if my mind's changed or if I have a more nuanced take. But that's really all I have to say about this video, guys. Let me know anything about the comments down below, and I'll see you guys next time. Always remember, extreme situations require extreme measures. Peace.